Turquoise Mama here. I thought I'd do a video on what it's like living without a vehicle. We did have a vehicle. A couple years ago, it broke down. The transmission had been going out on it for quite a while, acting up, and we pushed it as much as we could, and it finally went out on us. And we have, at this point, decided not to get another vehicle. My husband's a disabled vet and was able to get a scooter, a mobility scooter through the VA. And the grocery store is close enough where the scooter, we can use the scooter. And we also have a Wally World across the street from the grocery store. So we can go there to get a lot of items also. So fortunately, we have things that are they're actually within walking distance too, if you had to walk. The grocery store and that big box store. But I'm actually really enjoying using the scooters. We actually have two. He had gotten the first one, and within a month it started acting up. So he called and had them put in an order for them to fix it. So they came out and fixed it, and then it lasted couple more months or something. I can't remember the time frame, but it wasn't that long, and it started making noises again. So he called to put in an order, let them know what was happening, and they just were like, you know what, we're just gonna warranty it out. And so they did. So they reordered another scooter, and when they brought that one, they didn't take the other one, and so we now have two. And my husband was able to make some adjustments on the first one, so it still runs it works fine, good enough to do what we're needing to do. So we're now, him and I use the scooters to go do our grocery shopping and some of the errands that we can around here. He does get rides from there's a program at the VA that sends a van to your house to pick you up for your doctor's appointments, and he's able to use that. And there's also a city funded program that provides rides to elderly and disabled people, so he's able to use that also. So we're using that to get around to farther out places. My son, our oldest son, does have a vehicle, so we are sometimes getting rides from him. So that works out, but we're trying not to rely on him because he's got his own life, and he's planning on moving out in June, and we're wanting to be independent and not rely on him and let him move on with his life and do his thing. And our three other children are in the process of driving. Our daughters, we have twin daughters, and they do have their permit, but since we don't really have a vehicle for them to practice driving, they're not learning to drive to get their driver's license. So that's kind of an issue. And our son's car, they've used his a few, but his is it's an old, he had to buy a used car, and it has some issues, so he doesn't really feel comfortable letting them practice in his car. And then he would have to be the one training them, so his time doesn't always allow for that. So we're trying to decide how we're going to handle the other three kids getting their licenses and getting cards and stuff like that, which I don't envy that. It's really nice not having to pay for car insurance and not having to worry about the car breaking down and the expense it's going to be to fix it. It really is nice having that. The only issue we have with the scooters is weather. When it rains, you can't go out, and then I personally don't like to go out when it's cold, super cold. my husband's more willing to go out. So there's times I'm like, well, it's too cold. I'm not going. I'm not using the scooter to go nowhere. So I just stay at the house and go without if we don't have what we need. But we try to plan ahead and get stuff, for the pantry and the refrigerator and, different stuff like that. Try to stock up on stuff so that we don't have to go out. But, we still can only stock up so much, especially with the scooters, because you can only carry so much. Now, my husband did make a little basket. It's probably, it's like a 2 by 1.5 feet basket that he actually made. He welded together and made with some little piece of some wood. The frame of it is wood, and like how he made it was like a basket inside of like a frame, and that's wood. But he had some metal that he got somehow. I don't remember what he did. He had some, or he went to Lowe's and bought some stuff. But my husband had learned how to weld in the past, so he knows some about welding enough to do this. And he made this little basket that we put on the scooter, and he actually made a frame for each scooter so you can transfer it from one scooter to another. And that's really nice. I really like it. The only bad thing about that is it fills up pretty fast. So when you're at the store, you're like, oh, I know this. Oh, I just want to get this while I'm here. I just want to get this while I'm here. And then before I know, my basket's super full. That little basket in the back. And then, of course, it has that little basket up at the front of it. So I can fit a few things in there. And then there's the floorboard at your feet. So I'm like, have all this stuff. So it's kind of funny because I'm like trying to grab as much stuff as I can in one trip. But, you still can only carry so much. And then it's funny because I'll get up to the check stand and I'll put all my stuff up there, and they'll start putting in bags, and I'll start loading it up on the scooter, and they're like, do you want me to help you out to your car? And I'm like, this is my car. And they're like, what? They just look at me. I'm like, this is my car. This is what I'm using. Oh, okay. So, but I think the people at the store are getting used to us coming, and now they're all like, oh, hi. And of course we get compliments every time we go out with the basket on the back of the scooter. We get compliments every time we go out. Oh my gosh, look at that. That's so cool. And oh, that's nice. And, so I get to brag about my husband making it. And, but yeah, we get compliments every time we go out. And now every time, and then when we go out together, it's like I just told one of my kids the other day, yeah, I make him cute. So when we're out together on our scooters and we're there, everybody's like, oh, look so cute, look at that couple, I don't know how much of that he gets when he goes out by himself, but every time we're together, we get that. So it's kind of funny. But anyway, I had wanted to do this video because I had made a comment on somebody else's video that I was watching one of those minimalist type videos, and of course they're going about all the stuff they're getting rid of, and I said, well, how about life without a car and using mobility scooters? I said, oh, and then I said, oh, I should do a blog about that. And they said, oh yeah, do it. So I'm like, well, here I am. So I'm doing the video about what life is like without a vehicle, but using mobility scooters. And it's actually pretty fun and easy. I actually love going in the parking lot at the grocery store, or coming out, because once you get out of the store, you can just go zip. I'm like out of the parking lot. I'm gone. And it's really nice. It's having the stress of trying to park or pull your car out of the parking spot, and you're trying to back up and watching for people, you're looking and trying to watch all around you, make sure people's walking with their carts, and other people pulling out of parking spots or coming in to park. It's just, all that stress is gone. I get on the scooter and I'm out. I'm gone. I'm already out of the parking lot. And I remember a few weeks ago, my son had taken me to the grocery store. So we got in his car, and I'm sitting there, and he's having to do all that, wait and look around and wait for people to move, and go through the parking area and people walking by, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I could have been already halfway out of the parking lot or even out of the parking lot on my way home by now. So it's actually really nice. I really actually am really enjoying it now. And I don't know if I want to go back to driving. It's very stressful. I realized too, this is one thing I realized some years back, which I realized this, but I didn't have to do with the autism neurodiversity. I didn't, this is one of the things that I realized I was getting clues about this years ago, and I realized that driving is very stressful for me because everything's flying by so fast, and it's just I'm trying to take in all this stuff around me, and it's just a lot of information to process. I realize how much information I'm trying to process between billboards and store signs and people walking around and cars are moving around and just everything, just all this it's colors and shapes and words and letters and numbers and just all this information. When you're driving, you're trying to my brain it's trying to take in, and it's very stressful. I hadn't realized how stressful that was some years back, but I never put it together as that might be a autistic trait in myself. So that's just one of those clues that you're like, man, I was getting clues back then, but I didn't do that much with that information other than I hated driving even more. And then I've always had motion sickness in the car. And we didn't do a lot of traveling because we had all the kids, and it was just so stressful. You're having to pack up all the kids and pack up everything for them, and our kids are so fussy sometimes. They couldn't contain themselves, and taking them out on trips like that was just all the fussing and fighting. Then you have to stop and take bathroom breaks and make sure everybody gets a bathroom break, and everybody's, getting something to eat and getting something to drink, and it's just a lot of work. It was a lot of work for me. It wasn't for me. It wasn't a lot of fun because it was just like, this is too much work, trying to take all these kids on a trip, So we didn't do a lot of stuff, which is part of our stress as being parents. But we're trying to remedy that. But of course, our kids are older now. They're all in their 20s, so they can fend for themselves. It's a lot better. But anyway, I guess that's pretty much what I wanted to say in this video. I really enjoy not having the car and having to deal with that maintenance. Maybe in a few years I'll get a car again and go back to driving, but right now I don't even actually have any desire to drive again. It's just too much on the road, and we live in a fairly good sized town. We have 1 million people. I live in a town with 1 million people, so there's plenty of traffic on the road, and I don't miss it. When I was working overnight, being an overnight stalker, I actually really enjoyed. I had my lunch. Lunch was at 2 a.m. and I really liked it because I would come home. I was close enough. I could just come home for lunch, and there was nobody on the road. It was so nice. And then I loved going shopping, especially like at Wally World, in the middle of the night because there's no one there, and my husband and I would do that. And we used to have a cleaning business when our oldest son was a baby, and so we were on a night schedule because we'd go and clean these offices and daycare centers and different places, and we'd do it at night. And so we were on a night schedule, and I really enjoyed it. And we'd go shopping at night, and we'd find the 24-hour grocery stores and stuff, and it was so nice. And I actually kind of missed that with the lockdown stuff that we've gone through in the last few years, everything's shut down, and there's now there's not very many overnight open 24-hour places anymore, which some of that is good because it's really hard on people having to run a store like that. But I do miss being able to go shopping in the middle of the night. I do. Of course, I would have to have a vehicle to do that. So, and I don't miss that part. So, but anyway, I guess I'll end it. That's my take on that subject, and guess we'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching.